Today we're focusing on skin tones. Now, people come in all sorts of beautiful colors, and luckily for us, so do art supplies. Welcome to the Art Workshop with Christopher Epling. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have a really cool show in store for you dealing with exactly what our opening suggested, skin tones. Now, art supplies, like I said, have a huge assortment that you could choose from, different mediums you could choose from as well, from our liquid type stuff to paint, oil type paintings, paint, all the way down to pastels and color pencils and those things of that nature. So there's a lot of things you could choose from when you're approaching skin tone, and we're focusing today on something that's a little interesting. Some of you may have some familiarity with it. It's actually chalk pencils. Chalk is a really interesting medium in the fact that it can blend well. It's a dry medium. You can also find chalk pencils in any art supply store locally or anywhere you go, really. It's a very popular medium, and artists like to use this when blending. And with skin tone, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to blend. Now, for the purpose of this episode today, I went ahead and I've sketched out just a random sketch of a person's head and a little bit of the shoulders, so we can use today in order to get a few different various types of skin tones, and we will look into how to blend well using the chalk medium, and hopefully at the end you'll learn a little bit about how to apply this medium in trying to get the effect you want with various types of skin tones. So this is the drawing that I've created for today's episode, and like I said, it's just a front face profile type shot, a little bit of a side view here you can see with the ear and the neck. So we're going to be using, as I said earlier, chalk. Chalk is a great medium to use. These are the sticks that they come in, and you can see the broad range of color we have, and this is actually a skin tone pack that we're using to get the effects of anything that you want with reaching various types of skin tones. So what we'll do is I'll pour mine out here on the table and we'll get started. Now, if you're following from home, if you already have chalk at home, that's wonderful. You can just jump right in and go along with us. If not, you'll probably have to go get some and then come back and watch the show a little bit later and pick up from there, okay? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I like to go from a light color medium to a darker hue of that same color. I mean, a light color hue of a color to the darkest hue of that color. So we're going to start out right now. We're going to use a light color, and we're going to go ahead and look where the highlights are. Now, you can imagine that the highlights of this, we'll imagine this coming in at an angle, coming down onto the page, so the light source is actually up above the head of this character. Now, you may not be able to see this color once I apply it. You may be able to see it at home. It's a very light hue of this color, but I want to go ahead and establish this, because what this will do, we can blend very easily. This does not denote, this color here does not depict the skin tone we're looking for. It only is used right now for color of the lighting, okay? This particular hue of this color will be used a lot to pull out the lighting of all the various skin tones. And you notice where I've placed this. I've placed it on the forehead, I've placed it on the cheeks, that's a light source, and I've placed it down on the bottom where the chin is here. That's also where a light source will be coming in. And then also we got to think about the shoulders. Now, the light's coming in from this angle here, all right? So you can imagine the shadow to be coming down below the chin on the neckline, and then all over here, maybe a little bit of shadow on the shoulders, but you could go ahead and just about guess that this area here will be lightened up here, okay? And also a little bit on the neck, as I said, a little bit here coming up the neck like that, and then also over here on the shoulders, okay? So once we've actually established our light hue that's coming in, we could go ahead now and start with another color, all right? Now chalk is dusty. Chalk is a dusty medium, so it's gonna, whenever you get finished, just go ahead and blow that off there. Works really well. All right, there we go. All right, so we have established now a light source for our color. We'll go ahead now and go a little bit darker on the hue, not too darker here. And what you want to do is go around the light source that you've already established on the edges and coming in a little bit on top of it. Now this may look a little strange because the color is actually an orangish color, but what we're doing is we're putting this down to help accentuate the light source a little bit more, and then a little bit later when we come back with white, we'll be able to pull this out even deeper. Okay, so I'm going ahead now and I'm going around these edges and I'm just adding a little bit more of this color down onto the skin tone, getting that in there pretty good. All right, I want to go a little bit darker on the hue now. We're going to start up here at the top and we're going to blend across like I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm coming across the medium. I'm actually pulling it. Now we're not going to focus on the hair today. This is only skin. You can see me now. I'm coming down as obviously now underneath the eyes here. We're going to have a darker area coming down the nose, coming down to the tip of the nose like that. Also underneath the nose here will be darkened in, around the sides. Everywhere that I've not placed the light hue, we're going to basically fill in now with this color. But what we want to do is not press down too hard, because in a little bit we're going to blend this in so that it works really well with the rest of the color. Now using a medium to depict light, it works in various ways depending on what medium you chose. It's real important, if you don't know a whole lot about how to blend color, to go online, research this stuff. There's a bunch of videos about it. We've produced videos on actually color and hues and lighting, so that's something you could check out. Now remember, the light source is coming in from this angle, so typically this entire side of the face here is going to be a lot lighter. Now I am going to go ahead though and use this color very lightly on this side, because the entire side of this face will be lit up, and we will go back over it using the other hue that's a little bit lighter than the first one we chose. Okay, now of course underneath here, underneath the eyebrow, we're going to have a little darken in there. We're going to have a little bit of darker hue underneath the eye here. Okay, we've already got the side of the nose. Up here will be a much more darker hue, where the light is not reflecting so much on the side of the face. And then also going down the cheek here, on the side of the jaw. Okay, we'll go ahead and connect this over right here, blend a little bit lighter as we go towards the light source. Don't press down as hard. And as well down here at the bottom, we're going to keep on going. We'll come back over, like I said, go over this section a little bit more with the light source color, and bring that out just a little bit more. Okay, so don't worry too much. Now we do have a little bit of darker hue underneath this portion, but this portion is relatively over here all lighter hues, but we will have a little bit. Okay, then also we may just have a little bit of dark over here on the side of the face here, just a little bit to accentuate the light source on that side. Okay, the shoulder may be darkened in just a little bit, maybe on this side, as we move up. Okay, now as you're using this, you're going to notice there's a lot of dust, and that's what I keep doing when I lean down to blow off all the dust that's coming off. Okay, now I'm using a skin tone that is a neutral type color, and we're going to go over most of the areas where we have the lighter hue and the darker hue is connecting. Okay, so we're going to go over those areas now, and we're going to blend that in. Chalk blends really well. We've all used chalk. Even if you're not an artist, you've used chalk probably in school. You've went up to the board, and you know how dusty it can be. And I don't know if you've ever used it though in terms of trying to create something, but it blends just as well when you're trying to create a light source. So if you've never used any type of color before to create a light source on an object or a drawing, chalk is a great medium to start out with, just because it blends so well. I'm sure you've seen me use my finger before to blend stuff. With chalk, you don't necessarily have to do that so much. You can use just the actual medium itself. Like I said too, you can go to just about any hobby store that has art supplies and pick up a pack of these. The particular pack I have here today is actually a skin tone pack, so it makes it a little bit easier for us. We don't have to try to guess what all colors we need to create the drawing with. So we have this this particular drawing colored in pretty well, and what I'm going to do here in a second, you can see how we can see the light source coming in. We have our different features that are actually highlighted, and you can actually go in and actually add more highlights if you wanted, and bring out that light source again that we first started out with on top of the drawing we have already. Okay, so that's just one way to approach it here. So we're going to go ahead now and start over, and with this particular one we're going to first lay down a foundation that's going to be just a little bit darker of a hue, not too much. You remember last time we started out with a lighter source, but this time for our light source we're going to be using this color. Now, just like we did before, the same light source areas underneath the eyes a little bit. Okay, I'm going down the nose, that's the shadow area. We can actually use this over top of most of the drawing because the light source is going to remain the same for this particular piece, but what we're going to do is we're going to go back over in a minute with a little bit darker hue, and we're going to color the rest of the drawing in. Now remember, this is our light source, so we get confused like I did a little bit there. That's okay, it's not it can be fixed. That this source here is going to be a little bit darker hue. We're dealing with skin tones, so there's a lot of variations in this. So with this though, we're going to go over top of the areas that would be lightened by the light source. Of course, down on the area of the shoulders and the neck here. And you may say, well, this looks like too dark of a hue right now, but what's going to happen is in a second, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back over this, and I'm actually going to color over top of this particular hue with the lighter hue source and blend these two together, okay, before we go in with the darker hues. So we're going to continue on here. All right, I'm going to grab the lighter hue color. This is actually white, and I'm going to actually blend this in now using the white. So you can see it kind of takes the edge off of that hue, and it starts to look like a different color altogether for our light source for the skin tone. Go ahead and color over top of this, and make sure you cover all your areas. What you could also do is go ahead now with this one, and as you're blending, and you can actually cover a little bit broader range of area than you typically would, because what we're going to do in a second, we're actually going to use this to blend the other surface color for the face. So you can go ahead and actually start doing that if you want. Now, I didn't approach the lips on the last drawing only because we were focusing mostly on the skin for this particular exercise. Now, if you were to use watercolor, that's a lot different, and so it's a lot more challenging to do skin tone with watercolor, but you could do it. But it is more challenging. They actually have watercolor skin tone packs that you can purchase. So you can see now this skin tone is on there, but it's a little bit darker compared to the earlier one. And the reason for that is we're going to go a little bit darker now, but we're blending these colors. So I'll be using a variation of two colors here, actually this and this color. And what we're going to do is we're going to start out first. We're going to come back around and get our shadow in, okay, and make sure that our shadow is nice and appropriately placed on the drawing, on the side of the head here, coming down. Okay, we'll go ahead and get up in the ear here. We'll add some highlights there in a second, just like we did before, down the chin, down the cheek. We'll get this area here, okay, Basically, if you think about it, what we're doing is just shifting the hue of the color alone. The light source remains the same, so therefore, while we're creating this, we're not really doing anything different with our light source. Our light source is going to remain the same, so therefore, it's the hue that's changing. So you have to remember that when you change hues and colors, you're just going down the spectrum of color or up the spectrum of color, depending on where you start from, okay? And you're just trying to grab out that tone, all right? Underneath the chin, the lips here will be a little bit of shadow. The shadow will go down the neck here, of course, just like the original one that we did, the first one that we did. We're doing the same thing, okay? What we've done is we've just increased, or it went with the hue, changed the hue a little bit to give us this effect, okay? So you can see how this starts to come together more now with the skin tone. Now the last skin tone I'm going to be using before I actually blend in this area is going to be this one. And what we'll do here now, we'll start to put this in. Now this will actually be blended in a second. You'll see how this all will come together. But we want to try to grab the shadow and make sure that we have the shadow appropriately placed, like I said earlier. This is a very great exercise if you've never done it before to get involved with trying to create appropriate skin tones. It's not easy to do, and no matter what medium you choose, it's not the easiest of things to do. This is going to look a little off for a second here as I'm creating this, because the more you change the hue of a particular skin tone, the more you're going to have to blend, okay, to get the appropriate effect. That's just how it is. But we can pull it off though here in a second. It all comes together as we move forward, okay? So we're going to continue down with the shadow here, and we can go ahead now and add a little bit more of this across the board, okay? Just a little bit down here. We're going to add some over here on this side, all right, up the side here, connecting in for where the shadow will actually be picked up a little bit more, okay? And this will be blended in, and hopefully the effect that we want to get, it will come out here in a second. Now you notice this looks like hey, wait a second, this is needs blending. Well, we're going to blend it. We're going to blend it in a second, and it will all come together. So this is just part of the process. So now, after we have everything together, we're going to actually go back. We're going to grab our other color, and we're going to start the blending process a little bit more using this one, okay? It's all about pulling that shadow out. If you can pull the shadow out of the skin tone, then you're going to be in good shape. Smudging is another thing you can do with this technique. And what this does is it actually starts to blend the colors in even more for you. I like smudging. I've used it a lot with the art workshop. It's something that I think is something that you should use. If you never smudged before, then jump in head first, grab your, get your finger ready and just go to town with it and see what happens. It's really cool to see something come together whenever you start out like this, because in the end what you'll have hopefully is something pretty cool. So what we want to do is just cover all the area with their finger, keep smudging like this to pull out that effect. And as you can see, it's starting to come together a little bit more now. I kind of went outside the line there. I'm looking up too much, but that's okay. And you can see then where you need to come back and add a little bit more, take a little bit away, that sort of thing. And the process, you continue on and on and on. You could go forever with this, blending and perfecting, trying to get the right hue and the right balance with the light coming in. So it really is a process that you'll have to try to keep perfecting as you continue with your drawing. It's not easy, like I said. It's something that I practice with. I try to get better at. It's something that I could use a little more practice with, but I have to do this a lot with my profession. I don't use chalk a whole lot with what I do, just because it's the medium. I like to have more control of where things go on the page. And as you can see, you don't have a whole lot of control with this. I'm more or less going around, and when you start to smudge, you know, things can get out of the area you want it in terms of the color. Okay, so the color will actually go out of the area that you're working in. Okay, all right, so we can add a little bit, just a little bit darker shadow down here. Get that area in there a little bit. Like I said though, you have to really work with this over and over and over, getting the right balance in, and it can take time. Here's a great example of not having control of the medium. You can see that I just wanted this inside the ear right there. I didn't want it on the earlobe or up here, but when you apply this and start to smudge, you know, you really are at the mercy of wherever this chalk wants to land. Now, if I had a whole lot more time for the show here, you know, I could be more precise. But my main goal, though, is to get you on the right track of where you need to be to pull off putting these shadows together. Okay, and you got to keep working with it. The more you work with it, the better you'll get at it. Me as an artist, I constantly practice. I try to get better with things as I go. I'm not always when I create something, I'm not always really happy with it. Like for instance, I feel like I didn't do the best job with something that I could, but the whole idea is to keep going and keep practicing. Okay, so that's the whole point of art. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this one up here. I think this is probably the last one that we'll have time for today, but at least you get an idea of the differences of these two, and you can start to work to create your own from home. I wish I had time to go ahead and finish the hair up on these, and the lips and the eyes, because then things would really come together more, but we don't. So that's just how it is. But you can see the difference now between these two. When I pull them out together, you've got the two different skin tones. So I hope that has helped some. I hope that you've enjoyed this workshop. I'd like to thank Pike TV for producing it. Also like to thank theholler.org for producing it. Be sure to log into theholler.org, send us your artwork. We'd like to share it here on the channel. And until the next time, keep drawing.